Major funding for these broadcasts has been provided by grants from Capital One Bank, New York Community Bank, Eastern Consolidated, M&T Bank, Sterling National Bank, Meridian Capital Group, Customers Bank, Ariel Property Advisors, Dime Community Bank. Additional funding has been provided by AmTrust Title Insurance Company, AVR Realty Company, Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, Briarwood Organization, CBRE, Chase Commercial Term Lending, Chase Mortgage Lending, JP Morgan Chase, Citizens Bank, Colliers International NYC, Collins Building Services, CPEX Real Estate Services, Douglaston Development, Levine Builders, Flushing Bank, Friedman LLP, Handler Real Estate Organization, Handro Properties, Hodges Ward Elliott, Inc., Investors Bank, James D. Kuhn Real Estate Center at Syracuse University, Kilroy Architectural Windows, Madison Realty Capital, Matone Group, Mercantile Bank, New Banks, Newmark Knight Frank, Optimum Window Manufacturing Corp., People's United Bank, Rockefeller Group, Rosewood Realty Services, SJP Properties, Stonehenge Partners, TD Bank, Terra CRG, the Marinkoff Family Foundation, the Moynihan Organization, Moynihan Capital Partners, and these friends.
Everybody wants to live in New York, but where are they living? They're trying to find apartments in residential buildings. Are they around? What's happening with the market? Is it good, bad, or indifferent? So today I've assembled these three individuals who know everything about the residential rental market in the 5 boroughs, including you, Ofer, even though it's not 5 boroughs. My guests, they include David Kramer, who is the president of the Hudson Companies, Adam Parkoff, who's a principal at the Parkoff organization, and last but not least, my buddy, the CEO and principal of Stonehenge NYC, Ofer Yardeni.
Thank you.
Since I heard in the green room that you left Manhattan and you were even thinking of buying a building in Brooklyn, what's happening in the residential rental market?
So we can't look at it as one market, as we have sub-markets from areas like Greenwich Village and Chelsea. That market is on fire. We have close to 800 units in that market, and that market,
if you remember a couple months ago, it was right near the December holiday season,
Yeah.
You said to me that the market in the city was slow.
Okay.
And you were, there was a question of concession, and you decided not to do the concession, but to reduce rents.
So as I said to you, one, we are talking, the residential market, it's like you have 4 seasons in the year. And usually from November, December, January, February, the market really drops, traffic drops, and therefore your rents, you need to decrease the rents.
Do you concur with Ofer?
I agree. I mean, it's definitely seasonal. Going through, I would say, from the fall through the winter this year, it was weak. It was weak. And we also made a conscious effort to, instead of giving concessions, to reduce rent and try to drive people toward the buildings. But over the last month or so, there's been a tremendous pickup. The velocity has picked up, and we're renting at a faster clip. I don't know if I see a jump in the rents just yet, but I think that's what naturally happens as you get into the summer months.
David, this is a question for all of you. Are the tenants coming directly, or are they coming to you via the brokerage or the internet, or how are tenants coming to you?
So We have our own leasing platform. We have 25 people on the leasing team, and I can tell you that 75 to 80% of our tenants are coming to us direct. We are encouraged to work with the brokerage community, but today we advertise in social media, in every place that is available. We reach out to students that are coming to New York City, and we find that most of the tenants are coming to us through our website, through our social media, and the tenants basically are coming direct. But with landlords, they don't have their leasing platform. They need to rely on the brokerage community.
The Parkoff organization owns close to 6,000 units, maybe even more. You own about 3,000 units?
3,500.
25 units in the Hudson companies?
Oh, how many we own and manage? I'd say it's probably 10 buildings, probably.
So what's that in volume? 3,000 units, 3,500?
Probably close to 2,000 units, if I had to guess.
So where are your tenants coming from? How are they? Are you using social media?
Of course, of course. I'd say 80% direct, portfolio-wide, and then sometimes you have brokers and they're paid for by the tenant. And it's all a question of market and what's going on, and
so what's
in
really
slow
going
times
on?
the landlord pays.
I'm hearing,
pays the
Adam
broker.
and Ofer are saying to me the market is improving, the concessions are down. It sounds like the rents are not the same. Are there affordable apartments in New York City? I mean, that's one of your specialties.
Well, Hudson does affordable housing, workforce housing, luxury housing, but the focus is on the big glass towers in downtown Brooklyn or Long Island City or Hudson Yards, but the city has 3.3 million housing units. So is there affordable housing in New York? Yes, there's a lot of naturally occurring affordable housing in neighborhoods that are not the prime neighborhoods that people focus on.
So where can somebody...
But there are clearly not enough affordable housing.
We have a city of 8.5 million people. We need people to work here. We need workforce housing. Now, when they open up a brand new building like the Hudson Company has been building over there, and you have a lottery, you can have 90,000 applications for 90 units, okay? Where are the opportunities for workforce housing to live?
So our portfolio is built on it, and it's one of our major focuses. We do have a mix of luxury, but the vast majority of what we do is what I would consider the affordable sector, even though we have nothing program-based. If you look at our portfolio in areas in the Bronx, I would consider those affordable places to live. And certain areas of the Bronx certainly have been gentrifying and are great places to live with families. You have huge apartments that haven't been chopped up, real family-sized apartments where you can be in a one-bedroom for anywhere from $1,400 to $1,500 a month. And
they have, and I know I've been in some of these apartments. They're large apartments. The family can enjoy living there. It's it's not a cubbyhole over there.
Yep.
So the mix of our apartments are a little bit different. On the west side, I can tell you that from Downing Street to 113 in Amsterdam, our portfolio, 20% of our tenants are students. And the majority of them are foreigners that come here and they are living one in an apartment. You get the rent almost for the entire year up front, and they live and they maintain those apartments. The rest of the tenants that live there are from the legal, accounting, marketing, technology, and it's very much diversified. On the Upper East Side, we do not have even 2% of the tenants that are students. It's really more working force where people are going to make from $60,000 to $500,000, and they are able either to share apartments or to have their parents guaranteeing the lease.
Now, I remember a couple of years ago, you brought up an interesting topic with regard to certain of your properties on the east side, not really Upper East Side, but the east side, which relates to what David has been doing, because David and the related companies have been the master developer for apartments on Roosevelt Island. Mm-hmm. Have you seen, due to the new Cornell Tech and everything else, a large use of those apartments being rented to the people who are working at Cornell Tech on Roosevelt Island?
Not necessarily. The properties on 57, 58, 65th, 61st, and one that we have very close to you on 64th Street. But what we see is that when the parents pay the rent, the tenants used to live more in Greenwich Village and Chelsea. When the kids start their job and they have to pay the rent, they are moving towards 57 and 58 and 65th Street on First Avenue. So it's not necessarily the Cornell big movement on the impact on us. I really thought it will happen. It didn't happen yet. But we are getting younger and younger families that do not necessarily want to live in Brooklyn, but they rather have live in the Upper East Side, where they have great school, great parks, and they are able to walk to work.
Are we seeing more, you know, as they would say, with the Amazon and the e-commerce effect, are we seeing more amenitization or more lockers and, you know, cold storage in the buildings because you need to be able to take care of your tenants?
We started probably going back 10 years. I don't know how old Fresh Direct is. We started putting in these cold storage lockers because people get so many packages. You know, you look at how big we should design our package rooms in our lobby, and it just keeps getting bigger because the package delivery system is you know, can sometimes overwhelm the building staff.
It's a big challenge in the pre-war buildings.
Yeah.
It really is. I mean, you get to design, and we don't have the ability to build it from scratch. We're very strict with the superintendents and the building staff to make sure that, you know, everything is put away and locked up for safekeeping. But essentially, you have to create these spaces, and whether it's in the basement, I've seen some people in the boroughs. I don't care for it, but you see a lot of folks doing it in the lobbies. You know, in these pre-war buildings, and to me, it destroys
I've been
the
in
look.
some buildings, some walk-up buildings, where they've put in the Amazon lockers and other lockers, so because for safety purposes, where you could put the items which are Amazon or other e-commerce, and you don't have to worry about them being stolen, which is a big item over there.
So yes, David.
I was going to say there's this quirky mismatch between new building code standards require that every mailbox be handicap accessible. So instead of what you typically have seen for a century, which is, you know, 2 stacked mailboxes and a more compact mail room, you now have basically 1 mailbox in the same frontage. And so mailboxes are taking up huge amounts, swaths of space in lobbies at a time when nobody's getting mail.
In a similar manner, on the new buildings, aren't you supposed to be required to build spots for bicycles?
Well, there's also bike storage as well, absolutely. And but you know, I think that is that's part of the new transportation infrastructure coming our way, which is a good thing.
So I can tell you that 7 years ago, we are very big on technology, and several of your friends from the bank came to see our technology. So we created our own application where we communicate with the tenants and where we notify them on packages. But I'll give you an example, the Ritz Plaza. 5 years ago, we used to get, for 479 tenants, 50,000 packages a year. Today, we are going to get 95,000. So what we created one, places for storage where we notify the tenants immediately that they have a package, but then we created some rooms where the tenants can get access to the room. They can take their own package, and if they try to take a different package, you get an alarm sound. So you can really develop on Downing Street or some buildings where we don't have doormans, we have package room where without maintaining them with employees, the tenants get access, get the package, and everything is very, very safe. So technology
Here's a question
is changing the
for
business.
the two of you, and a little bit on David, because David's been building, and you acquire most of the time existing buildings. How is the market today to buy property? How, is it as competitive as before, or is it less competitive?
So I think that Adam and myself are looking almost every day at buildings, and I can tell you that is as competitive as we see 2 years ago. In fact, the market reported that I sold the building on the Upper East Side, and the cap rate was as low as it was in 2014.
Which is?
Which is what?
Which is how much?
About 2?
I don't want to get into it because of
we don't have
different reasons, but I can tell you that there is plenty of capital from deals up to $100 million where people are not necessarily buying cap rates. They'll buy 2.5%, 3% as long as they can create an upside. There's not enough product in the market that good, decent product.
David?
I was going to say, we're not sellers, but we just sold an apartment building because we got an unsolicited
Was that the one in the Lower East Side?
Yeah, at a 2.7 cap. And, so there's a market. It makes you laugh, it makes you cry. As a seller, it makes you laugh. Like, 2.7, sure, we'll sell. And then as a buyer, you think, well, I can't compete in this marketplace. How do I go find my next deal?
Now, you said in the green room you have 10 new developments under
10 buildings under construction.
And what are the types of property? Well, the entire
it's a mix from our library condo project in Brooklyn Heights, which is going to be a 38-story new condominium, hopefully the best condominium in Brooklyn, above a 3-level library of the Brooklyn Heights branch of the Brooklyn Public Library. And then at the other ends of the income range, we just broke ground on La Centrale, which is 2 new affordable apartment buildings that we're building in partnership with BRP, and that's going to include a new YMCA, a new space for Bronx Net Television, and some retail. That's an all-affordable project. We also have 3 new rental buildings under construction in Brooklyn, 1 in Williamsburg and 2 in Prospect Lefferts Gardens, that are all market rate, either 100% market or 80/20s, two of which are about to open.
Adam, what have you been acquiring anything recently?
We've been trying. I think the last 2.5 years have been challenging. We're trying to find opportunity. I think it's really, there are 2 markets out there. I think there's this market for stuff that is in place, well kept, and grade A. And I think you'll find that stuff, there still is a very, very tight market, and I think the cap rates are still super low. Everything seems to be trading per pound. It's a per unit price, it's a per square foot price. And then you have some product out there that has a little bit more hair on it, and I think those are the properties where you'll see that there's been maybe a 10, maybe even a 15% reduction in pricing in the marketplace. But for the most part, it's still, like Ofer said, it's as competitive as it has been.
Are we seeing, yes, Ofer?
Most of the institutions are almost out of the market. The pension funds and the institution, the big money manager, they all say that they want to look at deals, but if you look at for the last 1.5 years, they have not been in the market. So it's really market that is driven by either funds, guys that have a fund that he has the committed money, or by families that have the ability with another 1 or 2 family to go and to acquire a property. So 2 of the properties that I sold in the first quarter of 2018 were not sold to institution, but more sold to private guys. So the competition is fierce, cap rates are still low, but the big issue with deals above $100 million is that the institutions are not willing to buy to growth in rents. And they want a certain cap rates going in and the residual at maybe 30 or 50 bases above it, but without growth, you can't then execute on deals. That's the big issues.
How do you see the banks lending in this market? Because a number of people have said to me that a significant portion of the banks have reduced their market or they've changed their underwriting in the multifamily. I mean, including New York Community Bank and Chase.
I find that there is a tremendous competition with banks in New York. There is enough banks that will lend you. So we never had issues with finding the financing. For us, it was more about working with the banks that we enjoy working with them, that we have a good relationship. We never wanted to push for the last dollar. Adam and myself, when we acquire a real estate, we typically finance 55%.
Right.
So
I mean, you
need a lot of equity.
Today, you don't get more than that. So.
And so we have no issue. For us, it's more important to sit with a banker and in 2 or 3 years go and restructure the loan and get more proceeds. So but we find that the banks are really more careful with respect to the regulation that are in place, that everybody is following. It's not about the cash flow. It's to make sure that we are following the rules and regulation the DHCR put in place, but I find that the banks are eager to do business with us.
Here's the question. Whenever I walk down the street of somebody says to me, where's the next opportunity, okay? No, where's the next opportunity with regard to the residential market? I think anything that's near a subway, or a means of transportation, including the ferry and so on, has some value. Do you see people going, because I think you were in Brighton Beach or something?
We have surfed the wave of Brooklyn subway stations going out to Bergen Beach and Brighton Beach, and it's a little frustrating because we've done some deals, let's say in Windsor Terrace or Prospect Lefferts Gardens, where a couple of years ago we
like to change the terms. They Prospect Windsor Gardens. It's a new name.
These are not new names. They're new names to your Manhattan-centric Stoller report, but Windsor Terrace has been around for generations.
So you were saying about the trains.
I was saying about the trains. I was saying about the land in some of these neighborhoods. When we were buying land for $50 to $75 and building for $250 to $270 a foot, you could have a good market rate rental building without crazy rents, and it made sense and it was successful. And not much has changed from those building economics, except the land now isn't 75, it's 175, and the hard costs aren't 260, they're 340, and it makes it very hard to do a deal. And the way you do a deal is to say, like, oh well, if Hudson's getting $47 today, we're going to get $55 in 4 years, and that's how you make the deal happen.
So for us, 25 years ago when I did the business, we used to say it's not location, 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 it's transportation, transportation, transportation. At least for me, and I think for the Parkoff organization, being in Manhattan, the fact that Uber, Via, Juno, City Bike are available changed the whole dynamics of really how close you are to the subway.
Don't you have Maven in your buildings?
I have Maven in the building.
Would you explain to my audience what Maven is?
So, when I go to a hotel, there is always a hotel car that can give you services. And we came to idea, why can't we have in our buildings car services that provide to our tenants? So we made a deal with GM and with Icon Garage that for each one of our tenants that lives in our portfolio, whenever they want to have a car, they can just order it from their application on the cell phone, and they will have a car sponsored by GM, Stonehenge, and Icon. They pay $9 an hour to drive the car, no gas, no insurance, no cleaning, and they can park in every Icon garage for free. And if you think what's the second single most expensive thing that a tenant in New York has, is a car. So we eliminated the whole issue of a car. You don't need to be a car to have a car. And I think that our tenants are really changing, their mindset is changing from looking for stability to look for flexibility. And offering those amenities and the cars.
I think flexibility and amenities are very important. I mean, in many, even the little walk-ups throughout Manhattan and Brooklyn and the other boroughs, people are putting storage rooms, okay? Their storage rooms were in these basements, not used, but people need it. They need it for their luggage. They need it for other things.
Things as simple as washer dryers, which we years ago never would have even thought of putting in these smaller walk-up properties on side streets. We're putting them in, and it's increasing the rents. They rent faster, and despite some of the plumbing issues from time to time, right. It really does affect the velocity in which these apartments move. It makes a difference. And just to go back for a second on the comment about the subway and the transportation, I think there's something else that needs to be looked at today, which is where the jobs are. And the more of these WeWork offices that open up, the more of the shared workspace that opens up outside of prime neighborhoods in Manhattan, we walk buildings a lot. We're in the properties. 10 years ago, you'd walk a property in the middle of the day, you would see nobody. There would be nobody at home. Everyone was out at work in an office. Today, you go and walk a property, people are home. They're there, they're working from some type of shared space, either in the building, they're with a friend, in their apartment, with a home office. It's, the dynamic from that perspective is changing.
And in the same way, do you believe that there's going to be more amenitization in the possibility of co-working space within residential properties?
I think they're making a push for it. I don't know, what kind of success rate they'll have, but
It's all about issue of legal.
Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
zoning
Because
issue.
you have to, it's zoning, and this is something that the administration has to change. This is not something that we as an organization are going to do if it's not according to the CFO. and
Right.
if it's
What,
legal.
what residential developers, not just us, do is we have beautiful amenities, including the lounge with the view and the Wi-Fi, and you see people working there all the time, indoors and outdoors.
I mean, I was at the American Copper building interviewing a doctor for my other show, and he wanted to show me just the amenities, the 3 floors of amenities. It's fine, but it's also rather expensive that the tenants are paying for it.
And to maintain it as an owner, it costs a fortune to maintain those amenities. What David is talking about, different kind of amenities, because it's not necessarily swimming pool. He's speaking about lounge, where Wi-Fi, where you really don't need to have another employee, just maintaining it. So
Swimming pools are incredibly expensive,
very expensive.
from the overhead to the liability.
it's not just the revenues, Michael, that we care. At the end of the day, the bottom line is important, and if you are doing all those amenities and you increase your expenses tremendously, you're not making any profit and you're working harder. So the smart thing is to do it in an efficient, in a smart way, where the tenant will enjoy it, but that you will not have to spend all day monitoring.
Well, one quick comment, because we only have like a minute and a half left. What's your thought about the luxury assisted living apartment houses that are under construction in the city? Any thoughts?
I think it's a great market. I think with the baby boomers, aging in, it's a fantastic and growing market.
I mean, I have a 93-year-old mother, and you can count on one hand the number of, senior living facilities you can think of in Manhattan, that are available. And it's just, there are far too few, and they're all incredibly expensive, and they're not all so exciting.
I think it's a great business, and in fact, my wife threatened me that if I'm not going to behave, she's going to put me in one of them. So I really think that it's a great business, and
I think
have
it's
more
needed.
income.
And I think what Adam said specifically, with the aging baby boomer, and you want to have the opportunities. I mean, the building that's being built on 93rd and 2nd and on 56th Street in Lexington, I think they're going to be home runs because people want to be here. Not everybody wants to move to Florida or Arizona or other things, or Vail, like you want to be there. But I think in general, the concept is that the residential market is strong. It continues to grow. The perception that you may read in the press that the world is coming to an end is incorrect. And I know that if I had you back in 6 months, it'll be continued possibility. And I'll have David back, or all of you, to talk about how you see the for sale market. I'd like to thank David, Adam, and of course my friend Ofer, and I'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.